citizens of Bristol and with respect to all police officers who visit on a daily basis. Thank you for that. I think we would all agree that it's a horrific act that none of us would ever like to see again. Unfortunately, with society being what it is, it probably will be repeated somewhere else. Hopefully never in any of our communities or nearby. That said, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rick, please call the roll.
From the city of Ansonia, I believe we're joined by Sheila O'Malley.
Sheila?
Here.
And, from the town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith is not with us yet. From the town of Bethlehem, First Selectman Sorty.
Here.
Thank you, sir. We're not joining Mayor Caggiano, obviously couldn't be today. Andrew Martelli is not here from Cheshire. From the city of Derby, Mayor Zekin.
Here.
From the town of Middlebury, First Selectman St. John.
Here.
From the borough of Naugatuck, we are expecting Mayor Hess. He's not here yet. From the town of Oxford, First Selectman Temple. Here. From the town of Plymouth, Mayor Joe Kilduff.
Here.
Thank you, sir. From the town of Prospect, we have Mayor Chatfield online.
Here.
From the town of Seymour, we have First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis.
Anne Marie, are you there?
Was. You there?
She is here somewhere.
We're gonna mark her present because we see her online. But Anne Marie, if you hear us, you can confirm, that would be good. From the city of Shelton, Mayor Loretti. Thanks, Anne Marie. From the city of Shelton, Mayor Loretti can't be with us today. From the town of Southbury, we're joined by First Selectman Mandel.
Here.
Sure. From the town of Thomaston, First Selectman Moan.
Here.
From the city of Waterbury, we're expecting Mayor O'Leary, possibly online late. Unavailable this morning. No one will be joining us from Watertown today. From the town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn.
Here.
And from the town of Woodbury, I believe we're joined by William Agresta today. Morning, sir. We see you. He gave us a thumbs up. Is our guest with us yet? Noah Slavin from SLR?
We have somebody from SLR.
Someone from SLR is with us, okay. And I'm gonna mark that as Noah. Mr. Chairman, we're also joined by Jameson Falk from Senator Murphy's office. I have Joe Violette from the Greater Waterbury Chamber. April Chaplin will be joining us. She wants to actually speak under public portion today. I also have Margaret Hafner from the Kennedy Center with us, and I'm sure I missed some of the other members of the public as they came in. If you want to just type in your name, we'll add you to the address.
Okay, so prior to going on to our own business here, I will call on public comment. And April Chaplin, please, from the Kennedy Center, you wanted to speak to this body, so please, April.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm actually here to share some good news. Effective November 4th, I'll be starting with the Connecticut Department of Transportation as a Transportation Planner 2. It is a combination of Ellen Lawrence's old job with a 53-ton traditional, as well as a new statewide mobility piece. So I'm very happy to be doing so and wanted to thank all of you for being part of this group, for seeing the great work up close and personal that you do. And I'm sure, given my next role, that our paths will continue to cross. So thank you very much.
And thank you, April. We look forward to working with you at DOT.
Absolutely.
Are there others who would like to speak under the heading of public comment? I know we have a number of guests. Did any of you want to comment? Anyone?
We didn't receive any requests.
Okay, well then I'll simply move on. Thank you. Second item on our agenda, CNVMPO meeting. We do have a quorum, and Kevin Ellis, you wanted to speak to this matter, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. We have some tip amendments consisting of 3 different projects. The first project will be electric vehicle charger installation. This will be utilizing a CMAQ funds to install electric vehicle chargers at 3 CTDOT district headquarter buildings. The one relevant to us is the Thomaston District Office, the headquarters for District 4. They will be receiving chargers. The total project cost will be around $1 million, with federal contributions totaling $800,000 and state contributions of $220,000 with no local funding. The second project is a signal equipment replacement within District 1 by DOT. Within the CNVMPO region, these upgrades are in Bristol, and they include the following intersections: Route 6 at Oakland Street, Route 6 at Rustic Terrace and Shopping Center Drive, Route 6 at Route 69 and Maple Street, and Route 229 at Redstone Hill Road and Cross Street. The project will have a total cost of $1.7 million and be fully funded by federal funds. And then the last project will be Waterbury Branch ADA accessibility. This will be installing high-level platforms at Beacon Falls, Seymour, and Sonia train stations, and this will include other amenities such as ticketing, real-time arrival information, and overhead canopies. The project will have a total cost of $37 million, with federal contributions totaling $29.6 million and a state match of $7.4 million with no local funding. So as you can see on your screen, the recommended motion is to adopt the resolution to approve these tip amendments, and I'll take any questions.
So moved by Prospect.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Any questions for Kevin? Hearing none, call the roll, please. Or I'll just say, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Any abstention? Pardon me?
Well, but you can get
In opposition? None. Okay, very good. Motion carries. Thank you.
education chief.
That takes care of item number 2 on our agenda. Moving on. NVCOG administrative items, first order of business approval minutes from September 9. Do I have?
So
a
moved,
motion?
Prospect.
Motion Prospect. Bob, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Eddie. Thank John. Any discussion? If not, I would call the roll to accept as presented, or not the roll, excuse me. My bad. Call the vote. Most as presented, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of financial reports. Michael, please present.
Thank you. So this is the financial report for period ending August 31st, 2022. It's the one that went out in the agenda packet last week. As you know, the board has adopted a balanced budget back in June, but our current bottom line is $85,000, which is normal around this time frame as all the revenue from municipalities and brownfields causes the revenue to be higher at the beginning of the year, and then it usually converges to a more balanced budget as the year progresses. There have been no major reductions or no reductions in funding sources. On the expense side, we are over on legal. If you go to the next slide, please. If you look at the right, I'm sorry, the right in the middle legal category, we're about $20,000 over. This is the result of legal expenses related to the Kidneytown Dam. We have 2 grant applications in with NOAA. We haven't heard anything, and we're not entirely sure when we're going to be made the award, if we're going to get the award. Hoping for the best, but we're anticipating maybe December. We'll find out sometime after the election. Moreover, in January, I will be presenting a revised budget, as there are a couple other funding sources that we weren't anticipating that we got, such as the increase to PL funds, the potential NOAA, and 1 or 2 other smaller sources that will allow me to kind of refigure the budget a bit so we can account for the uptick in legal expenses down the road. Other than that, are there any questions pertaining to this month's report?
as I've noted, the operating budget is an appropriate percentage for this point in time of the year, albeit others may be out of balance, so.
Right.
Just a notation for everybody as I review the budget earlier.
I don't know if Michael said it, but Michael, your projection for the year end is a flat budget, though, balanced budget.
Yeah, currently it's flat and it'll also remain flat with the revisions.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to accept?
So
it?
moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got Rich speaking and Eddie St. John. Any further questions on this budget? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
I would also like to note that the audit is still underway. I know the auditors will be on site next week. But once we see where we're at and how we're moving, I will be reaching out to the audit committee to start planning 1 or 2 meetings in the upcoming months to review anything the auditors give us and potential draft reports.
Thank you, Michael.
Good for coffee.
You have something else, Michael?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Director's report? Rick?
Yes, a couple of things. First, as you know, we've had a number of vacancies and we've been successful in filling some of them so far. So I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce to you 2 new employees of the agency. First, transportation planner Elliot Wareham. Elliot, stand up, say hi. And environmental planner Katie Schlick, who started with us this week. Say hi, Katie. Katie. So we're really pleased to have both of them. We've actually made an offer and had acceptance on another position, 2 positions who will be starting at the end of the month. So we'll introduce them next month to all of you.
And where will that leave us, Rick, regarding our staffing levels?
I still have not. I'm not sure how I'm going to fill John DeCarlo's position, if I'm going to fill it or what it's going to be comprised of. I may change it a little bit. So that's the regional policy and municipal service manager. It leaves us 1 short in land use planning right now, right?
Yes,
I think that's it.
that's correct.
I think that's where we are. So we're in pretty good shape. We did pretty well. Made some good choices, I think, and we've got high hopes.
Please hear we've been able to hire into these positions and not leave ourselves extremely short-staffed.
I thank the board for their actions in helping us with making these attractive positions. All right, just a couple of notes. The annual regional brownfields partnership meetings, some of you are your own representatives from your town, some of you have appointees, but the brownfields partnership meeting will be November 30th. It'll be at the Mattatuck Museum this year. Do we have a time yet, Chris?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So it'll be a morning meeting between breakfast and lunch. So we feed you light food. We don't have to feed you all lunch. But that should be a good venue for that meeting. And we're looking forward to it. The other thing, because we don't have a brownfields report on the agenda this month, I'll just give you an update for Ricardo on the short list. So our short list of LEPs, as far as we're concerned, is overdue. We've been out on the street for over a month with request for proposal, request for qualifications. So we'll be shortlisting whenever you're going to call the executive board of the RVP together to make those selections.
Yeah, it actually comes to a close today at 2 p.m. So far, we've already received somewhere around 11 responses. So,
We typically keep 6 on the short list, but we let it up to the executive committee to decide how many are there. And just as a reminder for how the process works, once we create the short list, every project scope is given to everyone on the short list. They're invited to participate in the walkthrough and then make a proposal. And then we award based on cost and approach, but largely on cost. Okay, that's it. I have nothing else for this month.
Okay, thank you. Before we move along to item number 4, I see a memo here from Mark. Mark, did you want to have something to say about this, or is this simply for everybody's reading?
Which memo is that? Because we have,
It says 2022-1014 state rail plan.
that's coming up later. That's up my.
They're under number 5.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep.
It made me nervous there. I was in.
No, it's Nielsen's fault. He has insisted on putting all these transportation items in under planning and not under NPO.
Okay, no,
So you can blame him, sorry.
no, well, I will then.
It'll be the first time.
Probably won't be left.
Yeah,
Is it because so many
Um,
people? Yeah.
I think so.
Number 4, emergency management, Joanna?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, John Field couldn't make it today. He is doing a school security assessment at Ridgefield High School. But he did ask me to let you guys know that there is a new org chart at the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. They filled a lot of positions. There's still a few more to fill. And just a reminder that the director is William Turner. There are also some basic web EOC training classes happening in the next few weeks. The next one for basic web EOC, that's Emergency Operations Center training, is on Wednesday, October 19th, 9 to 12. Now, regarding the Regional Emergency Planning Team, the next steering committee meeting for Region 5 is this Monday, October 17th. And there is going to be a CEO Crisis Leadership Seminar happening on November 15th, Litchfield Inn, and it's being run by the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service, and it is limited to 50 participants. And then finally, community emergency response teams. The CERT training day is happening on November 5th, 2022, and it's at the Connecticut Fire Academy, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I can answer some questions now if you like.
Joanna, I frequently get these emails and send them along to my EMD.
Mhm.
Are all our EMDs being directly contacted on these as well?
I do copy the EMDs, and I actually would like to speak with you afterwards to make certain who's the EMD in Thompson, because I'm getting some bounce backs.
Okay, thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then community response team update, you gave that as well, as part of this, thank you. So now we'll move on to, excuse me, item number 5, NVCOG planning and transportation. Item A is an update of transportation planning studies. I got both Rich Donovan and then Josh Leclerc. We'll start off with Rich at Route 229.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So we have finished both of these studies. We'll be doing just a brief overview of some of the contents. And we'll start off with Route 229, which focused on Bristol and Southington, Connecticut Route 229 from its southern point at the exit 31 interchange with Interstate 84 up to Route 6 in Bristol. For those of you who are familiar, it is a pretty standard arterial. Some sidewalks, lots of commercial businesses on the south end, a little more residential in the north. And so this study aimed to identify improvements for non-motorized users, as well as safety improvements up and down the corridor. Rich, if you can go to the next slide. And so we broke this down into 3 major sections. Today, we will focus only on the Bristol piece. The Capital Region Council of Governments and the town of Southington participated in this as well, and they will action the Southington end of this. And so just a few of the issues that we ran into here, especially in this northern section, the King Street section, it is very residential. Volumes are high and speeds are high, but there are a series of parks. Bristol Eastern High School is located here, as well as some quieter residential streets. And then this middle section also has very high volumes, very high speeds, but also a significant number of both residential and corporate spaces. And so what, really our study team on this, which included BL companies as the consulting engineer, took a look at all of the existing data, went through and made recommendations for intersection improvements where appropriate, including the addition of turn lanes, crosswalks, signals, and signal timing where necessary. And Rich, if you can go one more. We also looked at a multi-use path starting at Route 6 and going the entire length of Route 229. So this multi-use path is actually similar to what came out of the Route 67 study for Main Street in Oxford. It provides a facility for both pedestrians and cyclists. On 229, it is located almost entirely on the east side, except where it crosses over to the west side near Route 72 to provide better access to downtown Bristol. But what is important, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring this up today, is these two studies, kind of in conjunction, have helped us design and standardize a multi-use path standard, right? And so it looks at some of the streetscape elements, it looks at some of the safety elements. And these items will all be brought forward again as we continue on with some of our complete streets planning and guidebook and streetscape guidebook, as well as we'll make it into our active transportation plan. The proposed or the multi-use path model is a great option for locations like this, not quite dense urban areas, but otherwise pretty densely populated, especially through residential or mixed residential and commercial spaces where pedestrians and cyclists are likely to be, but don't currently have a good facility to use. And so just to wrap up this for Bristol with some of the next steps, now that the study is complete, we've been looking at some funding sources for them to start construction. We believe next year's Safe Streets for All program discretionary application will be a good opportunity to find some funding for this. As well as NVCOG, in coordination with the city, has taken on a study to look at connecting west from this multi-use path along 229 into downtown and then west out to Rockwell Park. The full study is available on the NVCOG website, and we can make paper copies available if anybody is interested, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Rich, I was briefly asked with Mayor Caggiano unable to attend today, well, for obvious reasons. Has he been brought into the loop on this? Have you had conversation with him regarding this as much of it takes place in Bristol?
Yes. Yeah. So the city was actually very involved in the design process and the concept here. And so we have spoken with Mayor Caggiano and his administration and staff and started looking at some of the next steps on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone? Okay.
No action.
Yeah, no action. I understand that. Thank you. Josh, West Main Street, Waterbury?
Sure, Rich. Okay, so similar to the status for Route 229, the study's public comment period has come and gone in late September. And so the report that's available on our website essentially is the final report and gives you lots and lots of information about how we went about the study. I'm just going to focus just for a couple of minutes on some of the aspects that I think are most likely to be applicable across many of the communities in our region, and hopefully can spark some ideas for future studies in any individual towns that are interested. Next slide. So just a quick recap. Basically, the study area for this project is from the interchange with Route 8 along West Main Street to eastward towards the Waterbury Town Green. The study area has essentially two predominant land use types. To the west of the railroad overpass, it's predominantly suburban style, commercial, parking in front, larger retail, and some service businesses. To the east of the railroad, it's essentially an urban setting with lots of mixed use and retail with residential construction over it, predominantly late 19th century buildings. So there's more of a urban neighborhood flavor to it. And then as you reach the green, it's essentially the heart of downtown Waterbury. Next slide. So this just gives you a sense of what we're looking at. And essentially it's a very wide corridor. And as I became familiar with it, I will say that the origin of this is basically a civic statement of Waterbury in the late 19th century when these streets achieved their present dimensions, that, you know, Waterbury was an important place and one that deserved a civic gateway to the green that showed that it could afford to do big things. And this obviously predates the era of automobile traffic. And so, you know, a big wide boulevard was a thing of civic beauty and pride, but not necessarily a traffic artery in the modern sense. So the challenge is basically to respond to that downtown setting, enhance the urban environment, and especially to improve safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, motors, and transit, essentially what we call the complete streets approach that serves all users. Next slide, please. And so somewhat similar to the Route 229 study, what we came up with, working together with Fuss & O'Neill as a primary consultant on this, is what's called a road diet. Basically looking at the traffic capacity and ensuring adequate level of service, but at the same time realizing that, you know, you didn't need all those roadway lanes to achieve an adequate traffic flow, so that you could narrow the lane width, in some cases substituting a turning lane for a full lane of traffic. Ultimately to introduce street trees and medians and textured pavement similar to what's been implemented on the East Main Street segment, as well as multi-use path and sidewalk enhancement to really give even the more commercial areas to the west of the railroad more of a neighborhood urban character, and certainly to enhance the connection between that commercial area and downtown. Next slide, please. So this slide kind of brings us closer to the green. To the upper right-hand corner is the monument that's situated at the western side of the green. Most of you are probably familiar with that area to some degree. And essentially, what we're aiming to do here is to take, there are essentially two West Main Streets, both fairly wide, busy streets. And so what we can see is that particularly for the northern West Main Street, there really isn't the need for essentially 10 travel lanes. And so we basically, what you see in pink color at the top is basically to decrease the amount of traffic on the northern West Main Street and channel most of the through volume to the southern West Main Street that connects more directly with East Main Street, essentially turning that into the primary arterial connection. And in the process, we've got the ability to do a lot of positive things for the downtown area, which is basically providing additional crosswalks, widening sidewalks, making sure that the area is ADA compliant, and also to provide bike lanes, shared use, and enhance as well the transfer area for the Greater Waterbury Transit District that's located on that southern leg of West Main Street. Next slide, please. So just to bring this to a close, I mean, essentially, we have been very successful in being awarded in August. City of Waterbury received a raise grant of $23 million approximately, of which 9.8 million has been intended for preliminary design, final design, and ultimately construction of some of the improvements associated with the West Main Street study. So that's, you know, for those of you who've been around the COG for a while, that's a remarkably speedy progress from study effort to getting things moving on the construction side ultimately, and certainly toward moving towards design. In addition, I'd like to highlight what we want to do in this coming year, especially with Elliot coming on staff to lead some of our transit planning efforts, is basically to revisit the Waterbury Area Transit Study that was completed approximately 5 years ago, and really enhance this as essentially the pulse point for that, and also to look at some of the connections between different routes and how do we make this whole region more transit friendly. In addition, there's a walk audit that's being sponsored by Desegregate CT coming up. I don't know the exact date.
Sorry, not off the top of my head.
Okay, but anyway, that we can get to you if anyone's interested in participating in that. It's primarily focused on downtown Waterbury, as well as, you know, basically supporting a range of economic development initiatives for the city within that corridor. So, we've been working together with the city staff to move the project forward. Just we read earlier this week with regard to the related CMAQ project that covers some of the same geography to make sure those two projects are not overlapping in a way that would make FHWA unhappy and that they're all working towards the same goals. So that's my presentation. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Rich has a comment.
Josh, I do have a question. The walk audit, did we confirm that that was coordinated with the city of Waterbury at this point?
No, we have not.
It is the 19th, if anyone.
And we're aware of it. We've been invited to it. My instruction to staff was to coordinate with the city and make sure the city is on board and understanding what's going on with it. Because I don't understand who it is, why this organization is doing this. They haven't talked to us about it. They've just invited us to it.
Right, so we did reach out to the city, we just haven't received back confirmation.
Okay. Good, thank you. And I don't want to take any longer with this, but Josh, I did have a question. The section between, Rich, can you go back to like the first slide? The section between Meadow and right there. Between Meadow and Central.
Yeah.
Is there an elimination of on-street parking through this section?
In a very limited number of spaces, to be honest, there really isn't much utilization of those because every one of those businesses has off-street parking, more than sufficient for its needs. It's there because it's just traditionally been a street with on-street parking, but it's really not necessary to maintain that.
City engineer's office is.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on them.
Has there been a discussion about what happens to the land that's going to be abandoned from the roadway?
Yeah, I mean, the preliminary concept is that then becomes an amenity area or potentially pocket park.
Remaining city owned though?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob Chap, you're there. Could you go back
Anybody else?
could you go to the one at the west end of the green? You just look around it.
Sorry, can you?
Josh, did you hear what the mayor asked?
No.
That one, all right. One thing you didn't say that we had at the last, you'll notice the street isn't going around the monument, so the monument will be a little protected now, and I think that'll make the veterans very happy that now they can go stand at that memorial if they choose to and not get run over by a car.
I thank you for highlighting that, and I think that's a strong aspect of this project and something we were focused on achieving, which is basically a substantial addition of open space to the green by eliminating what is essentially an unnecessarily complex and in some cases hazardous intersection configuration that basically allows you to make all kinds of complicated turns around the green that you really don't need to have in order to have adequate circulation, and basically turning that into more of a conventional T intersection should make it safer for both motorists and pedestrians. And as you were mentioning, increasing the size of the green and the safety of that area immediately adjacent, and essentially letting people get closer to the monument, which is presently basically inaccessible in its current location.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Josh. Moving along, we are down to you, Mark. I'm sorry, State Rail Plan, Mark Nielsen.
First B, transportation plan.
Well,
Yes,
Mark, do your thing and then we'll just back up. I'm sorry, my bad, guys, out of sequence, but please, Mark.
Oh, okay, just be real quick. We just wanted to let everybody know that Connecticut DOT just released their state rail plan. It's a requirement of federal rail administration that states put together a rail plan every 5 years. Just gives them, it's to highlight the state's vision for rail service throughout the state. It addresses both passenger rail and freight activities. On whole, the plan is pretty comprehensive. It does a real good job of explaining and describing, existing conditions, what the system is made of, services and things like that. And it's a real good compendium of all that information. So if anybody's interested in anything dealing with rail in the state, it's a good document to sort of focus in on. But they do have a comment period that's going to be ending October 30th. NVCOG will be submitting some comments to it. While our comments are generally positive, we did notice a few things that were lacking in the plan, especially related to the Waterbury rail line. They highlight the rail line somewhat, but doesn't include some of the long-term vision that we have as a region that has been expressed at a couple of our rail conferences that we've held in the last few years. And just want to make note of that, and that kind of work and our focus should be included in the plan. The good news for Waterbury Rail is the state still is looking at electrifying all rail lines in the state, including the Waterbury branch line. So that would be a positive. So that would be something we'd be supportive of. But like I said, they've also included mention of a Waterbury line master plan that is currently starting or underway. We have yet to be engaged in that process. And as a region that has really focused on improvements to the line, we feel that they should be contacting us very early in the process, not at the end of the process when they've sort of already made their decisions. So that's another item we're going to note. But like I said, and freight, the Connecticut has sort of I don't want to say issue or problem with freight rail, is that most of our freight lines are relatively short haul. It carries heavy product and things like that. However, we have also pushed, and Borough of Naugatuck has pushed for consideration of developing a inland port at the old Uniroyal site in Naugatuck. Again, there's no mention of that concept in the state rail plan, even though I know the mayor has had contact with DOT. We've pushed it a number of times. So again, we're going to be making a comment that should be included as a long-term vision for the plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, so freight plan is also on the agenda, but we have a couple of things. I just want to emphasize a couple of points from Mark's comments. The rail plan does call for investigating the extension of the Waterbury line across the central line through Plymouth, through Bristol, through New Britain, and over to Berlin and into the Hartford line, and then a second extension and improvement from Waterbury north to Torrington. Those are both in the long range study plan. The problem or concern that we have that's in our rail study for passenger rail is there's still absolutely nothing that will improve service to New Haven from Waterbury. You still can't get there, and they haven't included anything in the plan to get people from here to New Haven. You'll still be required to go to Bridgeport, change trains, and then go to New Haven. We've presented in our alt mode study a proposal for a transfer platform at Devon, which is approximately where the lines meet, branch line meets the main line, which would give everybody on the Waterbury line the opportunity to get on in both directions. So that's not included in their plan. That will be part of Mark's comments. So those are ones I really wanted to bring to your attention today.
I thank you for that, because that addressed some of the questions I would have had. All right. I appreciate that.
Rick,
And,
could I raise a point on that? I want to make sure that the plan includes the possibility of connecting, I'm going to say from Naugatuck, but the Waterbury branch line north to White River Junction and then on to Montreal, because if that connection is made, we will be able to connect to Canadian National or Canadian Pacific. Now, to do that requires a partnership with one of those entities, which we don't have right now. But because we lost our partnership with Pan Am when they got bought out by CSX, there are some reasons why it would be in the interest of Canadian National to do this. So we're now the owners of the site. we're developing our site in a manner in which we are reserving that land for that use. And we have not given up on it. And things change fairly regularly in freight rail. And if there's still a chance, we should definitely pursue it, because there's a lot of gold at the end of the rainbow if we can make that partnership. And I know this, I'll never, ever give up trying. So we should keep it going.
Yeah, the improvement, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this, we know of you, Mayor. We know you're persistent. We know you've been working on this diligently for a number of years. Certainly, we stand behind you on it. So, Mark, is this part of
Yes,
the overall
right.
recommendation?
Right. And like I said, the plan itself is actually fairly comprehensive and good, but we do want to make these points that are missing from it. And the concept of freight service into Naugatuck is an important project that they did not include, and they're aware of it. Again, mayor's had contact with DO2. We've mentioned it in a lot of our work. And, you know, Rick mentioned that they're also releasing the freight plan, which is a separate document. But again, it's not included in that either, because the freight document that they're working on now is really heavily focused on truck traffic.
Yeah.
Because that's our primary mode of goods and freight movement in the state. But again, no, we are definitely going to include those in our comments. You know, in the memo, it has sort of our bullet points, but we'll circulate our comments. You know, when we do, we'll probably get those later, earlier next week.
Yeah, just to address, if I may,
Please.
address Mayor Hess's concerns. There's literally no mention of the potentials with CFX. They've strangely disappeared from the plan. Discussion of the rail yard in Waterbury, the maintenance facility for the branch line, freight yard. I'm afraid we've stolen all of Kevin's thunder for the freight plan report later on, but those are things that we will be paying attention. We will be submitting comment on all of those items.
Okay, any further on this matter?
If I can just throw in quickly, we also do have staff available if towns would like to submit comments of your own against this plan. Please let me know, and I'm happy to get put something together so we can assist you in putting your own comments
We
together.
got,
Have you talked to Clady since
There you go.
Okay, I guess we're good now. Thank you. All right, so I skipped before and my bad. Rich, regarding Metropolitan Transportation Plan?
Yes, so I wanted to just provide an update. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan is a federally required long-term vision for transportation in the region. It has to look at least a 20-year period, and the 2023 update for us will look out to 2050. This is a 4-year update for us. Every 4 years, we are required to submit an update to this plan, including new priorities, as well as an updated project list and intended distribution of federal funding. And so this will have to be approved by the board in February, along with an updated air quality conformity analysis that is currently underway by the department. And so we will be, we'll mention, or we'll bring updates before you for each meeting from this point on. As we mentioned earlier in the year, we had planned to do a very comprehensive update to the MTP this year. Unfortunately, a combination of our staffing vacancies, as well as the federal grant programs that came up on fairly tight deadlines over the summer, have scaled back our plans just a little bit. We are confident, though, that we'll have a high quality document ready in time for the deadline. Some of the key things that are changing in this plan, though, we've made a much stronger public outreach effort. We are currently running an online survey. We would appreciate any ability that all of you have to share that within your communities would be very helpful. We have paper cards with information here in the office. It is available on the NVCOG website. And so we're happy to send any information if you have newsletters or communication within your town you'd like to include it on. Right now, we have just about 400 responses. And our goal was to hit 800 by the end of November, excuse me, by the beginning of November. And so any assistance on that would be appreciated. It is one of the pieces that we wanted to focus on and update thoroughly in this MTP versus the last one. And so we're pretty confident that we'll have a solid number of responses, as well as some very good public comments through this and other sources. The other main piece that is now complete is the programming of federal dollars to projects. Earlier this year, we spoke with the towns and with the public works and city engineering through the TTAC, put together our updated list. Most of what was included in the last MTP continues on through this one because it is such a long period and the updates happen so frequently. Many of these projects have not yet moved forward. And so we've completed that list. It is currently undergoing air quality analysis with the department. And we will, that list will end up as an appendix on the final document when it is available. Right now, we're expecting having a public draft somewhere around the middle of December. That will give plenty of time for public comment and incorporation of those comments before we bring this before you in February. Once you have adopted it in February, it will go for review by the DOT, the US DOT and Federal Highway, and then be formally adopted in time for the May expiration of our existing MTP.
Thank you, Rich. I think more to come on this, as you can tell
Yes.
from his report and subsequent meetings. Rick?
One more thing. So the timeline is tight, but it's really important that all of you encourage your town planners, your DPW, your town engineers. It's a big, long, dry report and plan. They really need to read it and pay attention to how it impacts your own communities and get back to us with comments. Ideally, we're going to bring this through the TTAC and through the Regional Planning Commission to let them review, vet, and comment. But again, timing will be tight with the draft in December and adoption in, what do we say, February?
Yes, yeah, February.
Yeah, we did say February.
So.
Yeah, so this will be
but I
before the
do
TTAC
encourage all-
on our first week of January meeting. We'll get it before RPC as well, before it comes to you.
Right, but I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to comment on the draft and that, really, it's important. I know it sounds crazy, but for looking out to 2050, but we have to do this. Also, we don't have any major changes from the mix master, right, Rich? In this updated plan, we're going to wait on new mix study. So
Yes, right. All that is included in this plan is that federal money will be funded or will be programmed toward an improvement in the later years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. State freight plan, Kevin?
Thank you. So much like the state rail plan, the Connecticut DOT released their freight plan at the end of September. They'll like comments by October 24th. So if you'd like to get comments in, you can contact us here at NVCOG and send comments away to DOT. Much like with the rail plan we discussed at length, a lot of the projects in the freight plan are missing, such as the Waterbury Yard, Naugatuck Inland Port. The freight plan is really focused on truck traffic, as we mentioned, but there's no mention of really improving other modes of transport or freight around the state. But we talked about this at length previously with the rail plan already. So if you have any questions, please let us know, and then please get your comments to DOT if you're interested in commenting.
I think clearly we need to emphasize that there is a need for freight rail in the state. The state should realize it itself based on the truck traffic and the kind of beating it does to our highways and the cost of it, to the taxpayers as a result of that. Freight rail is a far more economic means by which, for everybody for that matter, to move heavy objects anyway from bulk freight. And we should really take advantage of that in the state like they do in many other states. So I would urge us to emphasize that in our report back.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Kevin. Aaron, NOG Trail Design and Management Guide.
Sure. Good morning. You can go to the next slide, Rich. So working with the Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee, NVCOG staff has completed the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail Design and Management Guide. We previously presented a draft version of the document to this board earlier a few months ago. The guide was endorsed by the Greenway Steering Committee in August and has been published on the NVCOG website. The purpose of the guide is to present information and best practices to help municipalities with their decision-making as they develop and manage sections of the Naugatuck River Greenway. As sections are connected, the guide will also help coordinate design decisions and rules so that long-distance users of the trail will have a relatively seamless experience as they travel through multiple towns. The guide includes chapters on trail design considerations, maintenance, and rules and regulations. We also included a visual design guide of trail design features, amenities, and street furniture on open sections of trail. So things like benches, bridges, bathrooms, lighting are all documented in the guide. It could also be useful to any town that's developing or is considering developing a multi-use trail, not just those along the Naugatuck River Greenway. So this guide can be found on our Naugatuck River Greenway overview page at the URL on the screen. And there's also a few paper copies on the table in the conference room for those of you that are in person today. Happy to answer any questions or get you a hard copy if you so desire.
Anyone? There are no questions or comments. Thank you, Ron, for that presentation. Disadvantaged business enterprise, Desiree.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is an update just to keep the board abreast of our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. So as a reminder, DBE stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, as defined by the 49 CFR Part 26. This can be a small woman or minority-owned business. The owners must be socially or economically disadvantaged, and we usually identify them because they're certified by USDOT, recognized unified certification program. So we look at the state of Connecticut's UCB. NVCOG maintains a policy to award a fair share of contract opportunities to disadvantaged and historically underutilized business enterprises. This is a federal regulation to ensure non-discrimination, which requires us to monitor and enforce our policies, to create a goal that represents our expected DBE participation, and to report on the progress semi-annually. Information about the DBE policy, the DBE program, and our goal setting methodology can all be found on our website under the civil rights page. In the last 2 months, we updated our DBE goal, which will be in place for the next 3 federal fiscal years. So it's updated on an annual basis. The goal is calculated using a 2-step method, which includes determining a base figure where we look at available DBEs relative to all businesses, and further weighting and adjusting that base figure. The report that details the methodology was included in the agenda packet that went out. Based on the calculations, NVCOG is looking at an annual 4% goal for expected DBE participation. Again, the purpose of this program is to create a level playing field in which DBEs can compete fairly in our contracting opportunities. And we'll continue to monitor and devise best practices to ensure that we're doing so, including outreach to local businesses. Happy to take any questions, or anyone who is interested can feel free to contact me.
Anybody? Just briefly, do we send this out to planners, economic development in the various different municipality, or do you forward it to simply to the CEOs and then leave it up to us to do with it?
No, so yes, during the process, the goal setting methodology, we do contact those various agencies that you're speaking of, and it's available, and we'll make sure to send it out again, a follow-up just to let them know.
Okay, thank you. I know anything I get in this matter, I send downstairs to my office so that staff sees it and perhaps can reach out to those in the community who might have take advantage of it, I should say.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I really just want to compliment Ezra and thank her for the work she put into this. This is easily the best, the most compliant plan we've had. I've had some responsibility for making sure this plan gets done since 2005, and it's never been this on the market. So I really just wanted to take the opportunity to thank her and compliment her for her work.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody questions? If I haven't already asked? Thank you. We'll move along. Item number 6, environmental planning, hazard mitigation. Noah?
Hi, everyone.
Oh, there you are.
There you are.
Thank you.
I'm here. You're able to hear me clearly. Yes. So hi, everyone. I saw that you went to the next slide and it wasn't my slides. Should I pull those up and share my screen?
Go right ahead. Yeah, you did not provide them to us, right?
No.
So I think you have the power right now to share.
I did add them earlier this morning. Rich might have to restart the presentation. I apologize. I got them in sort of late.
That's okay.
If I can share, I can also do it.
Go ahead and
Okay.
share. Please.
All right, let me just find it. Okay, everyone can see this? Oh, it's already starting to move forward for me. So hi, everybody. My name is Noah Slovan. I'm with SLR Consulting. We helped the COG put together the regional multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan update. Oh, interesting. Okay, and my slideshow is letting itself go without my control, so that'll make sure that I stay on time. I just wanted to quickly review, kind of remind everybody that you have this document, you have this tool, and you should use it and use it to get your communities funding and implement projects that reduce risks from hazards, but also provide a lot of other kind of co-benefits in addition to just mitigating natural hazards specifically, which is the specific goal of these plans. I'll just point out some of the top actions that came in from this plan across the region, updating flood regulations, and making improvements to culverts, bridges, and other drainage infrastructure, working on dam safety improvements, flood studies and mapping, and so on. And so, you know, if you look at your municipal documents, that has a list of the actions that you identified through this process, and it can be a useful reminder for you to think about what needs to be done, and also to, again, pursue funding for those. So I wanted to just talk through, and I'll be brief, a few key ways that we recommend making sure that your hazard mitigation plan continues to be a useful living document that can, you know, provide you with benefit given the time and energy that has already been put into the planning process by all of you. So these are the 5 steps that we recommend integrating into the plan of conservation and development, and the other 5, which I'm going to walk through. So I won't talk about them all right now. So integrate into the plan of conservation and development. There's maps in the document that you can use to, you know, just directly pull in or inform mapping for your POCD in order to guide development plans in the future. There's various hazard mitigation concepts that are important to development that you can incorporate. But then there's also these actions that you've identified, and you can just pull those directly into your POCDs, or at least use them to inform that. So depending on when your next POCD update is going on, is a great opportunity to make sure that the hazard mitigation plan gets incorporated and integrated into that other kind of central planning document. The other really critical aspect is to incorporate into the capital improvement plan. So during your annual review and update of the capital improvement plan, you can go to the hazard mitigation plan, find the recommendations that came up in that document and incorporate that into the CIP. You might need to break it into intermediate steps or make it a little bit more specific than what's listed in the hazard mitigation plan to make it more relevant for the CIP. And I also encourage you to kind of, as you're adding projects to the capital improvement plan, aside from the hazard mitigation plan, to think about the hazard mitigation benefits of those projects and where there's really overlap between those 2 documents. So those are kind of those are the 2 kind of simple, straightforward recommendations. We also recommend that you pursue funding opportunities, and I know that Aaron is going to talk a little bit more about the Connecticut Deep funding opportunity that's currently open. I'll talk a little bit more about the FEMA one, but there are a wide range of funding sources from federal and state institutions, as well as other non-governmental sources of funding. I was just at an event yesterday where people were recommending really building relationships with local nonprofits that have a whole other set of funding sources that they're able to tap into. So thinking creatively about where you might be able to get money from this for projects. And your hazard mitigation plan in the multi-jurisdiction section has a list of links and organizations, and this list that I have here is taken from that. I won't belabor the point now, but you have that information. And generally, you should feel free to reach out to me at SLR Consulting, or you know, however you can find our contact information, and we're happy to kind of help identify these for you and work with you on that. I do just want to point out that these 2 FEMA hazard mitigation assistance programs are open now. So if you are thinking about what projects you might want to pursue, these are open now. There's large pots of money. That's a great opportunity. I recommend generally reaching out to NVCOG, Aaron, and also to the state. The state is definitely interested in helping bring that money to the state. So they're eager for those opportunities to help bring that money in. The two different sources are BRIC and FMA, flood mitigation assistance. FMA on the bottom here is more specifically geared toward reducing flood risk, and that if you have a lot of repetitive loss properties in your community, that's the place to go for actions that are going to reduce risks to those repetitive loss properties. BRIC is kind of a larger picture, thinking about multiple different hazards, and that is really looking at building long-term capacity and partnerships and infrastructure. So there's a pretty wide range of eligible projects. I didn't bother writing them because pretty much anything you can think of can qualify, but those partnerships, capacity building, that's really what they're prioritizing when they're going through those proposals. And then just noting that there's a lot of potential new money coming from the federal government, and keep an eye on that. Other couple points are pretty quick. The plan comes with an annual progress report. You all have local coordinators who are identified through that planning process, but you can also pick whoever you want to be the local coordinator for the hazard mitigation plan. And it's worth just once a year kind of bringing people together at the municipal level, thinking about what progress has been made, what can be done in the next year, and just making sure that progress is being made. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. And then review the multi-jurisdiction document. We have delivered the plans to everyone, and the municipal annex is really the key information. There's two parts, the multi-jurisdiction document and the municipal annex. The municipal annex has the key information for your municipality. It's shorter and like the 50 to 70 page range, a little more targeted and direct. But you do also have the multi-jurisdiction document, and that has a lot of information about regional and state initiatives, opportunities for cooperation with other municipalities, some fact sheets that you can pull out, and again, a list of resources and potential funding sources. So these are just some of those maps that are at the regional level, initiatives and these fact sheets and resources. So I think that's all I have to say about all of that. I hope I kept to my time all right. And please reach out. They're big documents. It was a big process putting it all together with all of you. We really want to make sure that it is useful and used. So if you have any questions or there's any way that I can help out, please feel free to send me an email or contact me through Aaron.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry. We back?
Yeah.
Okay. No, with all these funding opportunities, is there also a required local match?
Yes. So let me get that back up. For the BRIC funding, thought I had that information on here, but I guess I don't. Yeah, so the BRIC, you need a 25% local match. And for the FMA funding, it depends on the type of project and whether it's addressing a repetitive loss property or a severe repetitive loss property. I believe generally it's 25%. If it's a repetitive loss property, it's something less than that, maybe 10%. I don't remember off the top of my head. If it's a severe repetitive loss property, if the project addresses an SRL, there's no local match required.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. As you go down the road here and you look at these things, often you're going to require the backing of your community to come up with the match. And obviously, depending upon the size of the project, that could be significant. Thank you.
It can be. I might also just toss in quickly that some of that local match can also come from other grants sometimes. So if you're looking at multiple different grant sources, you might be able to pull in like NIFWIF grant, for example, that could serve as a local match to the FEMA grant. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I know it's possible.
Well, thank you for that as well. Anyone else? Anything for Noah?
No. Mayor Bob was trying to say something.
Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize and buzz off early, and this is about my 505th or 506th council of governments meeting with this organization. Just wanted to put that little advertisement in there. And thank you.
Glad you're keeping count there, Bob.
Thank you. Aaron, TTD, Climate Resilience Fund.
Yeah, thank you. So following on Noah's presentation and with really, really good timing, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has announced a new Climate Resilience Fund grant program that's really intended to create a project pipeline of resilience projects. There's two tracks in the program. Track 1 will fund new resilience planning and community engagement. And track 2 of the program will fund preliminary design, engineering studies, analysis, costing, public outreach, things like that for resilience projects that have been identified in an existing resilience plan, like your hazard mitigation plans. The program will not fund design or construction, but it will fund all of the steps following project identification that are needed to make a successful application for federal grant applications. And it will even fund the development of those applications. So resilience projects that are eligible for funding under track 2 have already been identified in the newly published natural hazard mitigation plan that Noah just talked about, where they're listed as actions in the municipal annexes. Since riverine and flash flooding is the primary natural hazard in our region, and culvert and drainage projects are heavily represented, as Noah said. Similar projects have also been identified in road stream crossing inventories and various watershed-based plans that have been completed or are underway across the region. Many, or actually most of these projects listed in the plans are little more than an identification of a problem flooding area or an undersized culvert. And they give really very little information to include in a funding application. So this is really an unprecedented opportunity to collect that information and develop it into a competitive grant application. COG staff have gone through the existing plans and pulled out eligible projects focusing on drainage related issues and shared them with all of you over the last few weeks. NVCOG is available to assist in municipal applications for this or any other resilience related funding application. We're also interested in potentially packaging several projects, likely smaller drainage or culvert replacement projects, into a regional application. So if we were to get funding for a regional proposal, NVCOG would contract with a consultant or several consultants that would work closely with municipalities to advance projects and develop viable applications for funding. NVCOG is going to hold an information session about this opportunity next Wednesday at 9 a.m. via Zoom. And it will be on our agency calendar, and you've all received invitations in the last couple of weeks. So I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss further if anybody would like.
So Aaron, quickly, for any of these projects, must the municipalities own the property? Because in some cases, it's streams that may go to private property or otherwise that cause issue on town drainage. So is it limited strictly to town-owned properties?
So I'm not sure about the individual funding sources for construction, but I believe that the planning and sort of all of the work that would go toward getting those permissions for private property, working on a private property would be included under this DEEP application. So you could do all of that work, make sure you can get the permissions, design something, and be able to apply for federal funding for that. And I just wanted to say there is no local match for this DEEP program.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ed?
Aaron, I had a conversation with Christine about a week ago regarding this whole grant process and what the suggested projects for Middlebury. And we consolidated them all into basically one priority project. And hopefully we could do that with a regional plan where you could pick these various priority projects and do them all as one group rather than everybody trying to come up with their own plan. That was my suggestion to Christine. The other thing, and I'm sorry I'm bringing it up now, it was about a greenway issue. I noticed in here you recommend dealing with Eversource for lighting and all those kinds of things for greenways and all of that. I honestly believe that we should be looking at the solar aspect of lights. That's what we're using along our greenway. God, the cost of the infrastructure is 1/3, and I don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of a certain company to make all these things happen because it doesn't happen. And so that would be my suggestion, Eric, Aaron, that you look at that option that we go with solar lighting. We're required along these greenway projects. We've been adding them over the last couple of years to our project in selected areas, and they're working out quite well, actually. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Very good to know.
My green recommendation.
First, let me say, John, I'll just let you know you made Christine's day today.
Thank you, Christine.
Keep your project in there, don't worry.
Oh, well, I just want to let Aaron know that, we had that conversation and we need to consolidate and do it from regional basis because we're all trying to grasp at the same bite out of the apple. Forget it, we're gonna get nothing.
Yeah, and I think since
Anyone else for Aaron?
I was just going to say that
Thank you, Aaron.
since so many of these projects are similar, they're culvert replacements, they're drainage projects. I think we could save a lot of time and effort on the municipality's behalf if we do consolidate, and develop one grant application and try to do it as one big project instead.
We certainly have talked about that before, Aaron, at the COG meeting, and we concluded that it would be best that if we all filtered through the COG, we would have a much better opportunity to obtain the funding than if we tried to do it independently. So, yeah, in all these circumstances, I think it's best to bring it here, see what the COG can do in general, or collaboratively, I should say, for us, and as opposed to us trying to do it independently. We would serve much better to try. Federal government would rather give you $50 million than play with 5. Then 5 is jump change. 50, maybe you get their attention. So
I would encourage you all to have your technical staff at DPW engineering attend the informational meeting.
We're gonna work with Aaron because we got some greenway stuff and this thing, we have to consolidate. We don't have the resources to be able to shape these things out individually. The bigger cities are a little bit better than we are, but
yeah.
We gotta come together and to agree on what's priority in your place and move on. Let's try to let the rest of them wait for another go around.
There you go. So moving on, item C, household hazardous waste. Christine?
Yes, it is time for your monthly garbage update. So September marked the conclusion of another successful year of our household hazardous waste program. We served a combined total of 1,447 vehicles from our events in Ansonia, Bethlehem, and Prospect. Feedback from the events was largely positive, and so I'd like to thank all the communities that participated. We will review this year's program and make some decisions about next year's program at our annual meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for Monday, December 5th at 9:30 a.m. here in the COG offices. CEOs and public works directors should receive an email about this sometime in the future. And finally, I'd just like to note that our contract with our current vendor is expiring. So NVCOG has issued a new RFP, which is now live on the state procurement portal and will remain so until mid-November. At that time, our selection committee will choose the vendor we'll have for the next 3 to 5 years. Big thank you to our selection committee, which consists of First Select Woman Anne Marie Dragonis of Seymour, Public Works Director Roy Thompson of Waterbury, and Public Works Director Steve Mance of Bethlehem. So if you have any questions about household hazardous waste in general or about this procurement process, feel free to reach out to me to discuss, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. Anyone have anything for Christine? I might just note that it's been a very successful program over the years. And I know the residents of Thomaston appreciate it, particularly when it's closer in or home. That's understood.
I will say Thompson usually sends Rich Bidmead, and he's
Yes, he does.
fantastic. He's
Yeah.
like one of our main lieutenants there, so.
You're right. Rich-
Yeah.
And Rich is a good man, and I
He's
thank you for
awesome,
the
yeah.
compliment to him. I'll extend it to him as well.
Yes.
Mayor O'Leary. Good morning, Jeff, I think.
Still morning.
Yeah, it's still morning.
Hello.
Mayor, we've moved along significantly in the agenda. In fact, we're on item number D, environmental planning, and this is one of your babies, so you might be interested in hearing about this. Aaron, we're back with you, Kenny Town Dam.
Actually, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll start
Certainly.
this item. So we don't have a public update. We will be scheduling an executive board meeting on this, but there are a couple of things I can tell you. We're very close to facilitating the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank acquiring the facility from the current owner. We're working on the details and trying to figure out how to make that work. As you were apprised during the budget report earlier, NVCOG has absorbed most of the legal costs of carrying this through for the last couple of years. Michael's done a tremendous job of balancing that out. But at the end of this project, before we make the handoff, we're going to eat some of these costs. Not exactly sure how. It could end up as a deficit spend. We have the money, and it is something we all discussed early on as a potential possibility. We never actually went into deficit for legal fees on this project before, but it might happen this year. And we'll give you more information as we know more about that. Working with the attorneys now on the handoff, trying to hold things off, and we'll eventually, maybe in the next several months, be working directly with the Land Bank Board on this matter, and it'll be off of the NVCOG agenda as a formal item and out of our budget.
Correct.
I don't know if Mayor O'Leary had anything that he wanted to say about this today. I wasn't sure, Mayor.
No, I'm pleased with the direction things are going and the most recent developments, and looking forward to further discussions. Thank you.
Rick, I don't understand why it's coming out of our budget. And this seems to me like it's a state issue and a deep issue. And, maybe we should rattle some cages up there and get them to work.
So Deep has committed $1.6 million to the project. We've applied for over $30 million in federal funds to affect the project. It's really just our time, our attorneys getting to the point, because we opened the docket. We hired the attorney from Montpelier, who's a specialist in.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I'm all in favor of lawyer.
I know you're.
But, it just. Hey, be quiet, I'll sue you. But, it's the issue to me is, clearly we should say this is a problem, straighten it out. And we're not doing it.
On the regulatory side, they've been we've established a great with both U.S. Fish and Wildlife and where the resource agency is on it. The FERC is a different matter, and unfortunately, in order for us to push this forward, we needed to be represented at that table. Other than getting a term sheet off the ground so that we can hand this off to the land bank, we probably won't absorb any real legal expenses other than that work. So if it's reimbursable, trust me, we'll get it back. But all the state and federal agencies hopefully are in on this, and hopefully we're going to get word as to where the NOAA grants.
I mean, I'm totally behind everything.
Yeah,
I think it's a
appreciate
great
that.
idea. But, it's just a question of misplaced burden here as far as I'm concerned.
No, and that's understandable. Deep in their defense has
Email this to Marco.
stuck with. We'll be, if we take this on, we're going to be able to move past where those other ones were. And that was our fear, is that if it did get abandoned and end up with the state, it would be decades before it got addressed. So we feel like we've got a strategy here that worked. That's why we did what we did.
My suggestion was that when you're closing the chapter with hydro land, they pay off the region for the money that's been spent.
Yeah. Another great,
Nothing says you're gonna get anything, but it's a nice bargaining chip.
another great suggestion there.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney.
Aaron, with all this comment and conversation back and forth, do you have anything to add to this? Aaron Budris?
Nope, that's all I would have to say.
Okay, well, I like it like that. Keep it brief.
Mr. Chairman, if you just allow me, we put a brownfields report in the packet. We did not put it on the agenda in the interest of time. This month it was a long report meeting, so you do have a brownfields report in your package.
Thank you. Glad to make everyone aware of that so it can be read on our own personal time. And that would constitute the other today, I believe.
Unless there's someone else.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I would request a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Joe?
Hang on, you had, Mr. St. John.
No,
Oh,
I'll
you have something?
get it. No, it just, alls I wanted to say is there a way going forward, because these legal issues are gonna get more complex as we move along, that you create a reserve item within our operating budget that would put X number of dollars away in a little reserve account for potential legal expense going forward. Is there a way you can do that with a budget to address things in the future, not this year? Yeah, yeah.
I
Just give it some thought.
no, I want to have that discussion with the audit committee.
Yeah.
Personally, and I don't know how Michael feels about it, I would prefer to leave it in the fund balance and let you authorize the expenditure from there rather than moving money that's in fund balance into the operating budget. Because technically that represents a deficit spend anyway. It's sort of.
I'll leave that up to the.
Well, no, and I think
financial people.
when we meet as the audit committee and the executive board, we can discuss that.
I think that's-
So I have a motion to adjourn by Mayor Kilduff at 11:22. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Good job, you Chairman.
You moved it along nicely.
That's right.
I'm just checking because I know Mark.
I was taking notes.